Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Definitely. Always up for exploring something new.
Well, today we're going deep on observability.
Observability.
Yeah, a topic that's super important when we're dealing with complex software systems.
Absolutely. It's crucial these days.
It is. Imagine a huge online store and it crashes on Black Friday.
Oh, that's a nightmare scenario.
Total nightmare. No one can access the site.
Yeah.
Orders are lost. Millions down the drain.
Yeah, the impact is massive.
It is. And that's where observability comes in.
Right, because it helps us understand what's happening inside these, really intricate systems.
Yeah, like what actually went wrong, right?
Exactly. Observability gives us that X-ray vision we need.
Just no more stumbling around in the dark trying to figure things out.
No more. We're talking about shining a light on every little piece.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Okay.
But where do we even start? This all sounds super complex.
Well, like any complex system, observability has its core components.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Think of it like a three-legged stool.
A three-legged stool. Okay, I can picture that.
And those legs are logging, tracing, and metrics.
Logging, tracing, and metrics. Got it. Okay, let's start with logging. I know it involves recording events, but how does that help us understand what's happening in the system?
Think of logs as a detective's notebook.
Okay, so like detailed notes.
Exactly. Each entry is a time-stamped record of an event, like a user logging in,
Right.
a file being downloaded, or even, an error message that pops up.
Oh, I see. So
Sure.
if a customer couldn't, finish their purchase because of a payment error?
That would definitely show up in the logs.
Really?
Yeah, you'd see an entry indicating the error, along with, important details like the user's ID, the time, and the part of the system that failed.
So it's not just about recording, it's about making those records useful. I was reading about structured logging.
Ah, yes.
What's that all about?
So imagine trying to find a specific piece of information
Okay.
in a huge, messy notebook. That's what dealing with unstructured logs is like.
Oh, that sounds frustrating.
It is. Structured logging, though, formats those log entries in a way that's consistent
Oh, yeah.
and machine readable.
So it's like organizing that notebook into neat, labeled folders.
Exactly. Making it much easier to find what you need.
That makes sense. But wouldn't that require a lot of extra effort from the developers?
It does require a bit of a shift in thinking,
Sure.
but the benefits are huge. With structured logging, you can easily search, filter, and analyze your logs using tools like Elasticsearch.
Oh, so it's kind of like having a superpowered search engine.
Exactly, one that's specifically designed for your system's events.
Okay, that's logging. What about tracing? How does that fit into our observability stool?
So logging gives us a record of events, right?
Right.
Tracing, on the other hand, lets us follow a request's entire journey through the system.
Oh, okay.
Imagine tracking a package
Okay. Over here.
from the warehouse to your doorstep. You can see every step of the way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's essentially what tracing does for our software.
So if a user clicks Buy Now on a website, tracing shows us the whole path that request takes.
Yes, through the web servers,
Uh-huh.
databases, payment gateways, and back.
And the key here is not just seeing the path, but also understanding the time spent at each step.
You got it. That's how we pinpoint those performance bottlenecks.
Right, like if that Buy Now request is taking forever,
Yeah.
tracing can reveal what's causing the holdup.
Exactly. It's like having a detailed map of your system's traffic flow.
So we can see where the congestion points are.
Precisely. Now, I know this might sound complicated,
A bit.
but there's a really powerful tool that can help make tracing much easier.
Really. Tell me more. I'm all about simplifying things, especially when it comes to complex systems.
This tool is called OpenTelemetry, or OTel for short.
Okay. OpenTelemetry. What exactly does it do? Does it magically map out our entire system?
Well, not magically, but it comes pretty close. OTel provides libraries and tools that developers can use to instrument their code.
Instrument their code.
Yeah.
So developers have to add extra code to make tracing work?
Yes, but OTel makes it surprisingly painless.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. It supports a wide range of programming languages and frameworks, and it offers something called auto-instrumentation.
Auto-instrumentation.
Yeah, so in many cases, OTel can automatically add the necessary tracing code without developers having to manually add it everywhere.
Okay, that sounds pretty slick. So OpenTelemetry gathers all this tracing data. What happens then? How do we actually see and understand those request journeys?
That's where things get even more interesting. OTel doesn't just collect the traces, it can also export them to various back-end systems for analysis and visualization. Tools like Jaeger and Zipkin allow you to see the entire path of a request, the time spent at each step, and even the specific lines of code that were executed.
Wow, so we can actually zoom in and see what's happening down to the code level? That's some serious X-ray vision.
Exactly. And this level of detail is incredibly valuable for debugging performance issues and understanding how different parts of the system interact. But remember, we're talking about observability here, and tracing is just one leg of the stool. We still have metrics to explore.
Right, metrics. You earlier described them as the vital signs of a system. What kind of vital signs are we talking about here?
Metrics are all about numbers, quantitative measurements that give us insights into the system's overall health and performance. Think of things like CPU usage, memory consumption, request latency, error rates. These are all examples of metrics.
So if we see a spike in CPU usage or a sudden increase in error rates, that's a sign that something might be wrong.
Precisely. Metrics give us those early warning signs. Imagine a doctor monitoring a patient's heart rate and blood pressure. Those metrics provide valuable information about the patient's health. Similarly, monitoring metrics in our software systems allows us to detect and diagnose problems before they become major issues.
So where do these metrics come from? Do we have to manually gather them?
Thankfully, no. Just like with tracing, there are tools that help us collect and visualize metrics. One of the most popular tools is Prometheus, an open-source monitoring system that works seamlessly with OpenTelemetry.
Hold on, OpenTelemetry again? I thought that was just for tracing.
That's the beauty of OpenTelemetry. It's not limited to just one pillar of observability. It can handle tracing, metrics, and even logs. It's like a Swiss Army knife for observability.
So Prometheus can collect metrics from our system. And then what? How do we actually make sense of all those numbers?
Visualization is key. Tools like Grafana allow us to create dashboards that display metrics in a clear and intuitive way. We can see graphs, charts, and even heat maps that show us trends, patterns, and anomalies in our data. It's like having a real-time dashboard for our entire system's health.
This is all starting to click. We have logs to record individual events, tracing to follow requests through the system, and metrics to give us those vital signs. But OpenTelemetry keeps popping up, and I'm getting the sense that it's more than just a convenient tool.
You're right. OpenTelemetry is actually the glue that binds these three pillars together. It provides a unified way to collect, process, and export observability data, regardless of the specific tools you're using.
So instead of having separate systems for logging, tracing, and metrics, OpenTelemetry brings them all together.
Exactly. This has a number of benefits. First, it simplifies things from a development perspective. You don't need to learn and manage different tools and APIs for each type of data.
Okay, less complexity is always a good thing. But what other benefits are there to having everything unified under OpenTelemetry?
Well, think about it this way. When you have all your observability data in one place, you can start to correlate it. You can see how a spike in error rates might be related to a particular slow database query that you identified through tracing, which in turn might have been triggered by a specific event recorded in the logs.
So that's not just about having the data, it's about being able to connect the dots and understand the relationships between different events and metrics.
Precisely. That's where the real power of observability lies. It's about gaining insights that you wouldn't be able to get from looking at each pillar in isolation. It's about seeing the bigger picture and understanding how everything fits together.
That's a great point. But I have to admit, I'm still a bit hesitant. This all sounds incredibly powerful, but also pretty daunting. Is OpenTelemetry something that only large companies with dedicated observability teams can implement?
Not at all. One of the best things about OpenTelemetry is that it's designed to be flexible and scalable. You can start small, instrumenting just a few critical services, and then gradually expand your observability footprint as your system grows.
So it's not an all-or-nothing proposition. We can dip our toes in and see how it works for us.
Absolutely. And the OpenTelemetry community is incredibly active and supportive. There's a wealth of resources, documentation, and tutorials available online, and there are always people willing to help you get started.
Okay, that's reassuring. I'm starting to see the appeal. It's like having a superpower for understanding our systems. But you mentioned another benefit of OpenTelemetry, vendor neutrality. What's that all about?
Ah, yes. Vendor neutrality is crucial in today's rapidly evolving tech landscape. With OpenTelemetry, you're not locked into using any particular vendor's tools or platforms. You can collect your data using OpenTelemetry and then choose to send it to any back-end system that supports the OpenTelemetry standard.
So we're not stuck with one vendor if we decide to switch to a different tool or platform later on.
Exactly. You have the freedom and flexibility to choose the best tools for your needs without worrying about vendor lock-in. This is a huge advantage, both in terms of cost and innovation.
This is making a lot of sense. OpenTelemetry seems like a real game changer for observability. It's like having a universal translator for our systems, helping us understand what they're trying to tell us. But with all this data and insight, what do we actually do with it? What's the end goal of all this observability?
That's the million-dollar question. Ultimately, observability is not just about collecting data. It's about using that data to make informed decisions that improve our systems and, in turn, improve the experiences of our users.
So how does observability actually translate into better user experiences? Can you give me some concrete examples?
Absolutely. Let's say you're running an e-commerce site,
Okay, e-commerce site.
and you notice that people aren't completing their purchases as much. Like, there's a drop.
Oh, that's never good.
No, not good at all.
So observability can help with that.
It can. Your metrics, for example.
Yeah,
They might show that the pages are loading slower during checkout.
makes sense. People are impatient.
Exactly.
So then what?
Well, then you can use tracing to see if, say, a third-party payment service is causing the delay.
Ah, so you can pinpoint the problem area.
Yes, and even use logs to see, like, the specific error codes.
So you're not just guessing, you're actually seeing what's going on.
Exactly. And with that info, you can fix the issue.
Make checkout faster.
Yep. And hopefully get those sales back up.
So it's about fixing problems before they impact a ton of users.
Right. Being proactive.
I like it. Any other examples?
Sure. Imagine like a music streaming service.
Okay, I use those.
Yeah, who doesn't? But let's say they're having outages, on and off.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. So your observability data might show that those outages happen at peak times.
Like when everyone's trying to listen.
Exactly. And maybe it's only in certain areas,
Interesting.
which could mean there's a capacity issue in those regions.
So you can adjust accordingly.
Exactly. Scale up resources, optimize things, keep the music playing.
This is great. It seems like observability helps you go from, like, reacting to problems to preventing them in the first place.
Yes. It's like having a crystal ball, in a way.
I like that analogy.
Predicting and addressing those issues.
Before they even become issues.
Exactly. Leading to better systems, faster speeds, happier users.
Everyone wins.
Everyone wins.
This has been so insightful. We've talked about logging, tracing, metrics,
It's the 3 pillars.
and how OpenTelemetry ties it all together.
It's the glue.
It is. And how this all leads to better decisions, better experiences for users.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
I'd say think of observability as a journey.
Not a destination.
Right. It's always evolving, so stay curious, keep learning.
I like that. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding.
I'm glad to hear that.
And I'm excited to apply this not just to software, but to other parts of life.
Oh. Like what?
Well, maybe I can finally figure out why my printer always jams at the worst possible moment.
Haha, maybe observability can help with that too.
Fingers crossed. A huge thanks to you for sharing your expertise and making this all so clear.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk about observability.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you're feeling inspired to start your own observability journey. Until next time.
Sure. So like I was saying, you run an e-commerce site
Right.
and you see that people they aren't finishing their purchases.
Yeah, they're abandoning their carts.
Exactly, cart abandonment. So with observability,
Yeah.
you can like really investigate that your metrics, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
they might show the pages are loading slowly during checkout.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Right. People don't want to wait around.
Oh,
So then tracing could show that maybe it's a third-party payment system that's causing the delay.
so you can see exactly where the holdup is.
Yeah. And the logs can actually pinpoint the exact error codes.
Oh, wow, that's specific.
It is. So you have all that information.
So you know exactly what to fix.
Right. Speed up that checkout, hopefully get those sales back.
That's awesome. It's like going from,
Yeah.
like, just putting out fires to actually preventing them in the first place.
Exactly. Being proactive.
I like it.
And that leads to happier users, right?
For sure.
So another example, imagine a music streaming service.
Oh, yeah, I use those all the time.
Me too. But let's say they're having these outages.
Ugh, frustrating.
Super frustrating. And, the observability data, it might show that those outages are happening like
Yeah.
at peak times.
When everyone's trying to listen.
Exactly. And maybe it's only in certain areas,
Okay.
which could mean there's like a capacity issue in those specific regions.
So you can, scale things up,
Exactly. Or optimize network traffic,
keep the music going.
keep the music going. That's the goal.
I'm loving this. Observability, it's like,
It's like having a crystal ball.
it is. You can see problems before they even happen.
That's the power of it.
And ultimately, it leads to better systems, faster performance,
Definitely.
happier users.
Everyone wins.
Everyone wins. Well, we covered a lot today.
We did.
Logging, tracing, metrics, OpenTelemetry, the whole 9 yards.
Whole shebang.
And how all of this can lead to better decisions, better experiences for those users.
It's all connected.
It really is. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Final thoughts. I'd say, remember that observability? It's a journey.
It's not the destination.
Exactly. So always be learning, be adapting, because things are always changing in this field.
Constantly changing.
And, the more you learn about observability, it not only helps you build better software, but it also helps you understand complex systems in general.
That's a great point.
So keep that curiosity going.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive into the world of observability.
It has been fun.
It really has. I feel like I've learned so much.
That's great to hear.
And I'm already thinking about how I can apply these concepts to other areas of my life.
Oh.